Hello, my name is Ansley Baring. I'm a meteorologist with the National Weather Service Atlanta, and this is the weekly weather briefing from September 5th through September 12th of 2024. So, an active and rainy weekend is ahead with the bulk of the rain expected to fall on Friday afternoon through Saturday morning, and periods of heavy rain could result in instances of flash flooding Friday into Saturday for central Georgia. A cold front will bring drier air to the forecast area on Sunday, and that will linger through the rest of the week. And cooler than average temperatures are expected through the week for central Georgia, with areas further north generally at or just below normal. So, taking a look at our satellite imagery, we do have a pretty thick layer of cloud coverage over portions of north and central Georgia today. And that is because we have a cold air damming wedge that is in place over the forecast area as warm Gulf moist air really overruns that wedge of cooler air. So, taking a look here at the satellite imagery on the right, we see a broad area of organized thunderstorms across the northern Gulf, and that is expected to move eastward and bring a rainy weekend to our forecast area. So, um, starting today, we are expecting that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico to overrun the wedge that's in place. And we do have a stationary boundary that is draped over the portions of the northern Gulf. And as that area of low pressure begins to traverse the stationary boundary to the east towards our area, we are going to be seeing an uptick in rain as well as a few thunderstorms. So, while we are expecting a few thunderstorms, particularly across central Georgia, we are not expecting any severe weather at this time. So the bulk of the precipitation will occur um, primarily it will begin in the early morning hours Friday, and that will continue into early Saturday. So, taking a look at our precipitation accumulation through Saturday morning, we are expecting 1.5 to 2.5 inches of rain, um, primarily over central Georgia, with the heaviest amounts from from Columbus to Macon. And so we could see some locally higher amounts possible. And you may notice in this image here too that there's a pretty sharp gradient between North Georgia and Central Georgia in terms of precipitation amounts. So, depending on the track of that low pressure that's going to be moving along the northern Gulf, um, if that moves further to the north, we could see a little bit of a northward progression in the heavier rainfall. And if that moves a little bit further to the south, we could see that shift a little bit further south. So, um, the good news with this is that we've been pretty dry over the last week, and in central Georgia, we do have some sandier soils, so they these locations can hold a little bit more water compared to their northern counterparts. However, we are still anticipating that a few isolated instances of localized flash flooding can occur. And so we do have a slight risk for excessive rainfall for portions of central Georgia over the period from Friday and into Saturday morning. So, taking a look at our precipitation through Saturday afternoon, again, we have that northward progression and eastward progression of that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. And so, as that pushes north and eastward, we're going to see a fairly broad shield of rain and potentially a few embedded in thunderstorms within that broad rain shield moving across our area, really primarily through the early morning hours of Friday and into the Saturday time frame, and that will be tapering off as that moves off to the east. So, again, you may notice here in this model depiction of the precipitation through Saturday afternoon that the bulk of the rain does appear to stay primarily south of the I-20 corridor. However, areas further north could see some lighter rainfall through this time period. So, taking a look at our temperature and precipitation forecast, Today's going to be generally the warmest day for most areas, with highs topping out in the low to mid 80s. And as that rain moves through, we will see some cooler temperatures on Friday, with a slight rebound on Saturday. So, Friday, we're looking at high temperatures primarily in the 70s. However, a couple of locations may reach the low 80s. Um, and Saturday, those temperatures rebound a little bit as the bulk of the precipitation moves off to the east. And we do see temperatures returning back into the low to mid 80s for parts of the area. So, looking at our precipitation forecast through Saturday, again, the time frame that we're most concerned about is really this Friday afternoon and into early Saturday, where we're seeing the greatest chances of rain, and that is also the time frame where we could see some of the heaviest rainfall. But we're really seeing those chances of rain beginning to ramp up this afternoon. So, we do expect to have a pretty rainy period throughout the first part of the weekend. Now, looking at the second half of the weekend and into the early part of next week, we do have a cold front that will be moving through the area on Sunday, and that will bring a drier air mass into the forecast area on Sunday. So, as this cold front slowly makes its way through the area, we will see a slight chance of precipitation relegated to primarily our far southern tier of counties through Monday. But once that boundary clears the area, we'll have high pressure building in from the north, and that will be the dominant weather feature through next week. So, while I mentioned a cold front, we aren't necessarily seeing this um, wonderful fall time, fall like air mass that's going to be moving into our area. But it will help to cool things off just a tad. We will be running a little bit below normal for this time of year. And so we'll have daily high temperatures topping out in the low to mid 80s for much of the week, and low temperatures will be generally in the 60s to low 70s for much of the week as well. So, while again, it's not that huge fall like air mass coming in, it will at least be feeling quite nice for much of the week. Our precipitation forecast, again, we just don't have a ton of precipitation expected through the first half of the week. However, we do see the slight chance for precipitation for some of our far southern counties. And it looks like we will be seeing an uptick in precipitation chances returning again by Thursday. So we are entering what will be the second week of September, and we are really entering into our peak hurricane season. So, if we take a look at our 7-day outlook from the National Hurricane Center for the Atlantic Basin, we do see a number of areas that we will need to be monitoring over the course of the next week. While the tropics look like they are becoming a little bit more active, a little bit more alive, as we've seen this kind of lull in tropical activity over the past couple of weeks, um, we have these areas that we'll need to monitor. The one good news is that uh, all of these areas are showing less than a 40% chance of formation into a tropical system over the course of the next 7 days. However, I do want to point out that that is subject to change, and we will be monitoring the tropics very closely as we enter into peak hurricane season in the coming days. Taking a look at our latest drought conditions, we have abnormally dry to moderate drought conditions that are persisting across much of north and central Georgia due to a recent dry spell. We also have a pocket of severe drought that has been diagnosed in southwest Stewart County. But luckily, with that rain in the forecast through the weekend, we are hoping that this will improve drought conditions for our forecast area. And finally, taking a look at our extended outlook, we do see in our 6 to 10 day temperature outlook the potential for below normal temperatures to continue throughout this time frame. So this is generally between September 10th through the 14th. And if we take a look at our 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, we've got portions of North Georgia that may see some below normal precipitation activity, while areas across central Georgia will either be near normal or slightly above normal for the precipitation. So, to wrap things up, I will summarize again some of the main points of the forecast for the week. An active and rainy weekend is ahead with the bulk of the rain expected to fall Friday afternoon through Saturday morning. Periods of heavy rain could result in instances of flash flooding Friday into Saturday, primarily for central Georgia. A cold front will bring some drier air to the forecast area Sunday through midweek, and cooler than average temperatures are expected through the week for central Georgia, with areas further north generally at or just below normal. So, with that, I'll conclude the weekly weather briefing. Thanks again for attending and listening. If you need to contact us in any way, we have several methods which you can choose from here. So, don't hesitate to reach out if you've got any questions or concerns. And thank you again for attending the weekly weather briefing.